All right. So I wanted to talk to you today because honestly, I was listening to your music in the studio, and I'm kind of like a big synthwave, vaporwave sort of fan. So when I
Cool,
heard
cool.
that, I was like, bro, this is awesome. So
Thanks.
again, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
How are you doing today?
Good, good. Just working on new music actually in the studio. I'm usually here at this time. I start for the night.
I feel you. Usually,
Yeah.
nighttime is like the best time to do things. I don't understand. I can never get that really. Doing things in the daytime is weird. It feels like it just doesn't feel like the right time to do things, you know?
Well, for music, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, other things, sometimes. I mean, I feel like the only thing really to do in daytime is like, I don't know, play video games and maybe eat a little bit of food. But
Well, I do that too, but yeah,
I got you on that.
yeah.
So first and foremost, I was gonna ask this initially because this was the main thing that kind of got me like this guy seems like a really interesting person. What was your whole idea with your first few covers with your like the albums you did? Like the
Oh,
CGI and all that, like
okay.
the designs. I have to ask. It just seems such like kind of like a really interesting and cool thing.
Well, I have a friend. So I was in the fashion industry with another friend of mine. His name's Eric. He calls himself Thelonious Poon, and he does he was getting into CGI at the time, so he was doing fashion design with me at the time,
Oh,
and we thought of an idea to kind of like incorporate some 3D designs with a sort of like a manga theme, but not really, a
yeah,
little bit, because a lot of the stuff that I do is kind of influenced by 80s Japanese manga like soundtracks.
really.
So a lot of the synthwave a lot of other people do usually are based on movie soundtracks from maybe North America, but mine are more kind of influenced by Japanese manga. So that's kind of where we were going with that. We also had some animated videos that we were experimenting with early as well.
Oh yeah, I saw some of those. They were really cool with like all the visuals and all that. Those, but yeah,
Yeah.
like had
Thanks.
some for your initial songs too.
Chaser has one. I think San Fernando has a really funny video, and Carno has a really strange video. Just that's probably the coolest video we've done. That one is very strange. Yeah.
And with
And
that,
Unpure has a really dark video, very dark.
sure,
That's a different kind of video.
I haven't seen on Pure's one on that, but I should probably look that up. That seemed like a cool thing. Um, but like what was really odd was how do you like get your music into like a 4 hour movie? Like
Oh,
what was the whole because I saw that and I was like, oh, this
movie?
seems
Yeah,
like an interesting cult film. And then I realized, holy crap, this is like 4 hours. Like, I mean,
yeah,
did you watch the whole thing?
yeah. I did. I got the soundtrack here. I got the DVD. I was one of the backers. So it's strange because I submitted to it. Maybe I was at the airport when I submitted that. I was going to Beijing last year, and I submitted it at the airport. And while I was in Beijing, they emailed me, I think 2 months later, telling me that they wanted in the documentary. And I was like, oh, I don't have the master. I can't get it to you because I was there for 3 months in Beijing.
Yeah.
So when I got back, I had to just throw it together as quickly as I could. But I really wanted to be in it, but I actually didn't think they were going to take my track, to be honest, because
Yeah.
at the time I was just starting to get a little bit known in the scene, and I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter. He was involved in that documentary. He did a lot of the interviews, so I didn't think I was gonna get it, but yeah, I got in, so I was happy. Yeah,
This
but
was
it's pretty long. It's a pretty long documentary.
like what did you do? Like, how do you like allocate the time to watch that? Like, I mean, like when like I don't know if you've seen this, like, did you hear the have you ever heard of Evangelion before?
No, no.
Oh, so it's like this Japanese anime. It's been going on since like the 90s. It was like pretty
Okay.
popular. Mainly because it was basically marketed as some like sort of giant robot generic thing and it ended up being like a psychological horror at the end.
Okay.
But basically the director decided, well, there was a rumor going around and it kind of leaked a bit. Apparently the movie is like supposed to be like 6 hours, and then
Mhm.
I just like I contemplated the same thing, but like I do want to ask like cause around that same sort of thing. Like what did you do? Like how did you find time to really do that sort of thing?
To be honest, I didn't watch it all at once. It's not the kind of thing because it's a documentary, so it's kind of broken up into parts. So and it's more than one DVD as well. I couldn't watch it all at once. I just watched it in parts, like maybe an hour at a time, because it really got deep into 80s horror movies. It got into a lot of obscure titles that I think the majority of people would not know. But when I was actually, it's kind of funny because when I was about, I think 16, 17, there was a video store, a VHS video store that opened up near my old neighborhood, which I don't live very far from there now. And they only had horror movies, classic 80s, mostly horror movies. So I've seen every single title that they mentioned in that movie. I've already seen those movies, which is a surprise because most of them are really obscure. But when I was watching it, there's a lot I didn't even know about how they were made, what their inspiration was, the producers, all of that. And I think dividing it up in parts really helped me get a better understanding too, or take it in a little more. I've seen it a few times now because there's too much information, I think, in there when you're watching it. There's too much. But I think if anybody's watching it, they should just break it up into little parts, and then maybe they can get a better idea of what's going on in the genre. And I would suggest people watch some of these movies also before maybe watching this, because it's maybe a bit too nerdy for people who are into
Yeah.
80s horror.
That would make sense. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I could see someone like, I mean, maybe it's something good when like you're folding laundry or something like that, and then you got to do a little bit of homework in between, and maybe you just want to get through the whole thing. But at the same time, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, if you want to pay attention, like you said, the important thing is to really kind of, watch through all that.
Yeah. It's very academic, kind of the way they approached it. It's fun, but it's also pretty academic. It really gets you everything you pretty much need to know about the genre from the 80s is there. It's all there
So like,
with all.
the
Yeah.
production and like how they kind of develop certain things.
Yeah. How the SFX started, what the inspiration was, and pretty much everybody behind the scenes is in it. They're all talking about it. They're all in it. Some of the original actors and actresses, they're all in it too. They're all talking about it. They're all interviewed. Pretty comprehensive, actually. Pretty
You
good.
said this was like a Kickstarter campaign, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa. So like,
I found out about the campaign before I wasn't even sure if I was going to back it at the time, because usually a lot of these type of films don't actually get made. They
yeah,
have the idea, but no one actually makes them.
no,
So I wasn't sure it was going to get made at all,
well,
but
in regards to making
they
music,
did.
I mean, like
Yeah.
in regards to making shit, I mean, stuff like that. I'll edit it out. Um, I think one of the things I was gonna ask, like, how do you actually initially like, get your first song, like, to really kind of, I don't know, gain the traction? Because like your first song was like 8,000 views, and like usually when I
Yeah.
see some artists, like their first song's like maybe 67 or maybe like 50 views or something like that. So like getting 8,000 like initially just seems like really cool.
Well, my first song, Artax, it's strange because I was just doing when I started this. I think it was late 2017, something like that,
Hmm.
and I was just doing it for fun. And when I did that track, I didn't really know the genre at all. I was really into 80s music, but I didn't know there was a whole scene dedicated to kind of reworking or reimagining that style. I didn't know that. I found that out much later than I get. It started, I think, early or late 2008, 2009. That's when this scene actually started. I didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. I found out about it maybe a few months before I made my first song. So I just thought I could pull it off and do it, and I kind of just did it my own way because I guess fall into the dogma of the genre. So I didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what people like, because I just emailed it out to as many people as I could find online that were into the genre, and they took it. But really and truly, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just
I mean,
that was my idea of what I thought synthwave was.
I mean,
It
that's the
wasn't
best way
actually.
things kind of work,
Yeah,
Like I remember I have a friend, like he kind of fell into that sort of dogma. He did vaporwave music too, and he essentially
yeah,
he did this thing where he basically he got some slowdown thing. He literally just drag and drop trucks and he put like
yeah, yeah,
made an album
yeah,
within a day, and like he got barely any views, but like,
Yeah.
you know, falling into that sort of thing, I feel like it kind of erases the originality of like the whole music itself. Like, if you kind of like, if you look at some artists, some of the best ones that like, really kind of made it in like, some
Hmm.
of these genres, like they were trying something new. Like I remember when 2000, when you said mentioned 2008, 2009, when like that stuff first emerged, like these were like experimental artists at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Um,
College, and there's a couple of them. They're all from France, it seems, most of them.
France, what's
Yeah,
up, with France? Like they always have like
yeah,
these people that just are so avant-garde with everything, and they just like
yeah.
they're just like, I remember there was like this DJ I listened to from like the 90s, and he had this thing where he'd play music, but like the whole time when he did it, he was like the coolest guy in the world. Like he'd pull out a cigarette, he'd be on air, he'd be like mixing a bunch of tunes, and he'd look like he didn't care at all, and he'd be just like
Mhm.
making like these insane tracks, and he literally looked like a total robot. He was like doing all that, and like it was like completely original what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know where I came from, but um
Well,
yeah.
Daft Punk, I mean, they're from France too. They were very innovative when they first came out.
Oh yeah.
They
uh
still are. They still are. But yeah,
They still are. It's like more they have featurings now, but like,
yeah,
with their kind of like ambient sort of music, like I feel like it was a really cool thing.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
the other thing is, I was already a producer before, but I was doing other genres. So for me, I didn't watch any tutorials, and that's probably the other thing that maybe helped me be a little bit more original in the beginning, because I watched none of the synthwave tutorials. I just thought I could figure it out without really trying to learn from anybody else online. I think it's useful, but I think early on, maybe people should find their own sound first, then figure out how to fix their technique before watching too much, because you can fall into the rules too much. It seems to be, there is a dogma within synthwave, but I'm trying not to follow it too closely.
it's true. And the other thing is you always want to make sure like you don't get too far from the genre as well. It's kind of like
Yes, of
medium
course.
balance. Like you don't want to end up
Yeah,
doing like noise music or something.
yeah,
And like, I mean, that stuff's cool, but like at the same time, again, it's kind of like trying to find the balance and all that. But
yeah.
wait, you mentioned you did different music. What type of other music did you do before this?
I produce a lot of other genres. I was based in Asia for about 7 years, and I was producing rap artists mainly in Asia. But it's like it's half my passion, but I really wanted to do this, like 80s music, but I didn't think there was a scene for it. This is kind of what I've always wanted to do. So discovering synthwave for me was just it was more of a personal thing, whereas the other stuff became more work. That was just my job, because I'm also an engineer by trade, or I guess by profession. So I mix for other people as well. That's why I have a studio here. So it
What's
wasn't just for TurboVCR, but now it kind of is. So
that's right. What type of setup do you have there, by the way? I have to
oh
ask. It just like I noticed like the big soundboard just looks kind of cool.
yeah, yeah. I have an ORAM console. It's from the UK. It's analog, so I actually mix. Maybe my last few songs were done in the box, but now all of my new stuff is going to be mixed on this. So my next two releases, or three releases actually, I have coming out soon.
Yeah.
They're going to be mixed solely on this. Well, they're already done, but yeah, they're done primarily on the board. And I have some analog gear as well, but I have used those in my previous songs. So I have modular synths. I don't know, it's probably too dark to see them there, but I have a couple of modular synths. I have a MS-20 inside my booth. I have ARP Odyssey. I have CZ101. I have, like, there's a whole bunch to the sides here too. ESQ1, K5000, Alpha Juno, a whole bunch of synths. I collect a lot of synths. I'm really into analog synths.
Bro, you're making me so
But
jealous
I
thinking about
also,
that.
yeah, I also use plugins too. So I actually have my own plugin that I made for a reason, called the Synthwave plugin. I just made it as blunt of a name as I possibly could, and it's something I did, I think, 2 years ago, because I thought some of the plugins I was using, they were too generic, or they were kind of like not really reimagining any kind of sound. So I wanted to do something that was simple to use, but gave you kind of my idea of what synthwave is quickly. So a lot of maybe young producers, maybe they could try it out or something on Propellerhead site. But
Oh,
yeah, I use that too. So,
that's pretty
and
cool.
I don't have a preference for DAW. I kind of dabble in all the DAWs. I use 3 different DAWs. Depends on what I feel like.
That's pretty cool. Like, especially like with all that equipment. How do you even like how do you even find that? Like, that's the thing. Like, there's like getting it, like, which sometimes is really easy, but then like, I don't know, finding the equipment, finding the people who actually sell it, like,
Yeah.
do you just go to like, like small music stores or
Um, it depends. For synths, most of my synths, I got most of them used. I don't really because all of these synths are rare, so they're not synths you could just buy at like Sweetwater or normal retailers. But I got them all used, mostly on eBay or in Canada because I'm in Toronto. There's a site like Kijiji. It's like a local marketplace kind of thing. But for this console, this was custom made just for me. So this was made by the guy who designed it for me.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I think he's based in Spain now, John. And I spoke to him on the phone before ordering it. I told him what I wanted, and he just made it exactly for me. But he's a legend. He's made boards for like classic artists like David Bowie, like I
Wait.
don't know, going back to the Beatles era, like some of these, well, the older boards that he used to work on were Trident. So he did a lot of amazing stuff. He's an older guy, but he's really amazing, amazing engineer. And yeah, this was from him, from his factory.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like you actually talk to him and all that stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. I spoke to him on the phone. He's a really nice. I mean, a lot of manufacturers won't do that for you, but this guy actually got on the phone with me, spoke to me 3 hours about the history of the boards, the design, all of those little things. And I think at the end of the day, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna buy the board. I wanted an analog console for pretty much my whole life. And I thought the guy who spoke to me on the phone, who made it, that's the guy I should be buying it from rather than just any other manufacturer.
Yeah.
And I
Like
don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. So,
I mean like something like that would like that's something you'd probably keep for like a lifetime,
oh
especially
yeah,
like
oh yeah, yeah,
all the history attached to it. But
yeah.
I did want to ask, like, have you ever picked up any like test equipment? Like, you know how some people have you ever seen some of those artists online who they get like those odd like
Oscillators or
oscillators and like scientific test equipment and then they somehow like
yes,
modified them. So
I do. I have that downstairs actually. Because I studied engineering, so I know how to fix all of this stuff if I have to. I have a voltmeter, I have an oscilloscope, I have all of that. It's all downstairs. So whenever I need it, I use it. I've only had to fix maybe one thing once. I also designed my own mic pre. I can show you.
ooh.
It's right on the floor. This bad boy I made myself. So
Whoa.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So I can kind of I dabble on the technical side too, but I don't have time to do it as much maybe as I want to because my goal maybe in the future, in the distant future, is to instead of just making a plugin, is to actually make a hardware synth, analog hardware synth. That's my goal. But that's a lofty goal because I don't think I have the engineering chops to do that yet. So
I
maybe
mean,
later.
it's mainly because of all, like the resources. They're all like divvied up all throughout the world. Like,
Yeah,
it used to be like, oh, you could get this like sort of material here, this sort of material.
yeah.
All of them have been going so digital, like to try and find like some sort of board or something like that is basically not impossible, but it's like you have to like import from like multiple different places. And
Especially the parts. Now, yeah, you're right. Back in the day, you could go to like a electronics store, maybe locally, and you can pretty much find all of the parts right there, and then you can test them. And if you mess up or you order the wrong, or you get the wrong thing, you bring it home and you need to fix it, you can always go back the same day, get the right thing, and change it. You can experiment more with the parts. Now, you have to order it online. You don't have a choice. There is no local stores where you can get anything like that. At least not that I know of in Toronto, but it's all DigiKey and there's a couple of other Mauser. There's like these sites and all of that stuff it'll take you like 5 days to get it. And now with COVID, probably a little longer.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
totally understand that. Wait, so did you guys ever have like Radio Shack out there?
We
Like,
did. We did actually, but I don't think we have it anymore. We just have the source, which is the same company, but they don't have anything in there really.
Yeah, they completely shut down in the United States. Like we got I know you guys like got back Toys R Us, like
Yeah, kind of. We kind of have. I mean, we never lost it because I think the ownership was different people in Canada, so they somehow bought the rights to just keep it running. But I don't even know where there is one. I know they exist here, but I don't know where.
I just hear the articles, but it's like I mean you probably have to search to find them. Like
They're
but
probably somewhere. Yeah. I don't know.
they're probably like co-owned by something or they're like within like some sort of outlet or something like that. So
Yeah.
you got extra funding and all that.
Kind
I
of sad. Kind of sad actually, because I can't think of any other toy store except you have to go to Walmart now. You can't really. There's no dedicated toy store that I can think of anymore.
Plus, like
Just
all those special editions. What am I gonna get? Like a
yeah,
Walmart special edition Game Boy
yeah,
Color? Man, I
yeah,
don't want something with a giant blue logo on the back. That's just gonna look like I got I don't know, like I got like some dollar like Happy Meal
yeah,
or something.
yeah,
Not knocking the Happy Meal, like be good.
yeah.
But back to like all the parts and all that. You're right. Um, it kind of sucks too because like I genuinely still really enjoy like not having to wait like an extra day, like just going out to a store and immediately getting something, and like
Yeah,
the idea of just having the parts on demand and not having to like strip through other things to literally
yeah. Well,
like
when you're inventing something, it breaks your maybe your creative mood or something. You might not feel the same way the next day or 5 days later. You might feel like, oh, I don't feel like doing this anymore. But in that moment, on that day, you want to do something, you want to finish it. You can't. You have to wait. So
yeah, it's
it's
like
not really, yeah,
it's the whole sort of like desire thing, right? Like
yeah.
like I don't know if I can do an innuendo here, but if you know what I'm talking about, the idea where like, you're ready for that moment and then you're like
Hmm.
something throws you off and it's like, oh wait, never mind, never mind. I
Yeah.
can't do that. But like,
Yeah.
it's I I guess it would be kind of like that if you think about it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I do that with like sewing. Like I
Oh,
I
you
don't know.
sew?
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind
Okay.
of like tech. I mean, I do soldering too and all that, but it's just kind
Uh-huh.
of like I don't like having shirts that I have to throw away. So like,
Hmm.
this is kind of weird, but I remember at my there was this sort of like there's this pile at my laundromat where they just like put a bunch of like torn up clothes and I found this really cool pair of ramen pajamas and like I like we don't have like a Walmart in like an hour from here. Like literally
Really?
yeah,
Where are you guys? You're
uh
in Ohio, right?
yes.
Okay.
So Ohio, most of the places like colleges and stuff, this
Hmm.
place, it's like literally in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
The closest place you can go is like a gas station. Like most people, when they go to get stuff for the weekend, they don't go to a Walmart or something like that. They usually just get like gas station, really cheap stuff over there.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, But that's aside the point.
Yeah.
So what do you have working on like right now, like music wise?
I got two singles I completed. So I did one with a person I usually collaborate with this singer Mega. So the last I think two songs I released was with her, including Unpure.
Mhm.
And I have another one coming up with her. And I just finished a song with an artist from Brooklyn named Pachara. So he's a singer as well. And that one's actually really different from anything else I've ever done. It's probably a little more crossover, that song. But and I'm working now on a third one. I kind of want to have like 3 or 4 vocal based songs before going back to mostly instrumentals.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I'm working on right now.
So
And I want to get back into some dark synth because I haven't done that in now like a little while. So
so it's gonna be when you mean a crossover, you mean like
crossover, it's kind of like I would say it's borderline maybe pop, kind of borderline pop, more like synth pop rather than synth wave.
So kind of like a little bit of like Young Bay sort of like vibes and stuff.
Maybe, yeah,
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 I was thinking that. That artist is pretty good. Like, although he hasn't released something in like what, like 2018, 2017.
yeah. It's
It's
been
been
a
a
while.
while.
Yeah.
Wait, so how did you find out about Mega? I like noticed like when I was initially looking up uh your music and all that, I noticed they were also from Canada as well, and
Yeah.
kind of like,
I work I work with her a lot actually in the past on her solo stuff.
mhm,
So maybe I don't know, going back pretty much her almost her whole career because she was doing trance before. She does a lot of trance vocals under another name, and there was a song that she did that was maybe 12 years ago, maybe, and it was really big in the trance community. And I actually wrote that song, so that's how we kind of started working on music together.
it's pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, what like I guess I I've listened to a lot of trance music before, but like I don't know,
Mhm.
I've never understood like kind of, from the artist's perspective, kind of what what like kind of drives making trance music and all that.
I think the reason I never produced it, I only wrote a song,
Mhm.
is because it's very DJ focused or DJ centric music.
Mhm.
It's most of the guys that are producing it, they are DJs. Well, all of them that I know of, anyways, they are DJs. So when they're doing it mainly with the crowd or like an audience live in mind, which kind of right now is probably not a good thing, but that's
Yeah.
what they're mainly producing for. They're mainly thinking about a crowd. They're not thinking about like making songs for your car or like your workout, or it's mostly just for a big stadium or big show or whatever. That's
Yeah.
kind of what, like, because I have a lot of friends that are trance producers, well-known trance producers, really close friends of mine. But that seems to be what their motivation is. For me, it's totally the opposite. I'm making songs for the car. I'm making songs to play games to. I'm making songs to work out. Although I did do one DJ gig last year, which is my very first. I didn't expect to do it. So
How
I
did
guess you can DJ synthwave. I just didn't really know what to do for DJing this genre. It's strange.
did you like make like a whole name like for your like kind of persona when you did the music and like as a DJ and all that?
No, I just did Turbo VCR. I mean, that was last year. I did a Turbo VCR set at a. It was a release party for another synthwave artist in Toronto, and
Huh.
that was the very first time they asked me to do it, and I said, "I'm not really a DJ, but okay, I'll try." I just figured it out. I think 2 weeks before the show, I learned how to DJ. Um, but DJing synthwave is really strange. It's really, really strange because like if you have like say deep house, tech house, I don't know, like trance, those genres generally stick within like a specific like beats per minute. But synthwave has no beats per minute rule at all, and I never followed any kind of beats per minute. So my songs could be up to 20 BPM apart, which for mixing purposes is impossible. You couldn't put that beside another song I did. It would just be weird. It wouldn't make any sense, and I have a lot of songs like that. So it's not like I could make a set out of only my songs. It would be impossible. I could probably do four that are close in BPM, but it was hard. It was really, really hard. It was a challenge, but it was fun. I think what I will do though later is maybe if I do a show or something like that, if the need arises, I'll probably do a combination of DJing with live synth playing, modular synths, stuff like that, like a live PA thing. Because I can play, so why not play rather than just DJ, right?
Yeah.
So
Like maybe show the production live and all that. Like people
yeah,
like there's that YouTuber. Have you ever seen that YouTuber Look Mom No Computer? He's like
yeah, of course. That guy's amazing. He's a
insane.
legend.
I love
Yeah,
that guy. Like he
yeah,
actually that's how I learned how to make like an oscilloscope. Like
yeah, yeah,
that guy. Anyway, but like he
yeah.
would go up
Are
there
you
and do all
surprised? Are you surprised he's sponsored by Red Bull? Because he's always like
wait a minute.
super.
That guy get a sponsor. Like, I mean, like it's I
Yeah,
mean, then again, he was like at a TEDx conference and showed how to make a
yeah.
flamethrower. So then again,
He's
I mean, like,
amazing. That guy's a genius. He's amazing.
he's such a genius. Like,
Yeah.
but what is my point? Like,
I want to
like
build
going
his
up there.
100 oscillator synth. You ever saw that?
Yeah, like Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. How did he do that? Like that's it seemed like so much work. Like you have to like solder every
Oh yeah.
individual thing and the Game Boy thing. Now that one,
Oh, that was cool. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I saw that too. I seen I think everything on his channel. He's amazing. That guy's amazing. I want to know where he learned all of this.
I think
I have he's he couldn't have just picked it up on his own. There's too much there.
like all that stuff. And like if you're gonna he keeps on talking about procrastination, but like if you're gonna get like all those like sort of equipment and all, like you gotta have like some sort of job to kind of like
Yeah.
support that sort of lifestyle. And I mean music is good. Like you have to initially like start out amazing in order to have some sort of income to support that. So there's got to be like some like is he a lawyer or something on the side?
I
Like
have no idea. Maybe his parents have money. I don't know because that is just way too much time and money put into his because the time to build that like that 100 oscillator synth, if I was building it, it would take me a month, and it took him probably 2 days.
I, I don't know how like to even start. I mean, like, man, if like you had like some sort of man cave like that, maybe like
Yeah. Well,
you
I have that. That's here. Yeah.
this seemed like a good one.
But
Like
not like him. But
it's every sort of like synthesizer or music like man's sort of like dream to have. I mean, Dead Mouse's place is like
oh
awesome.
yeah,
Like having some sort of place with all these old stuff like that half people know and then half people are like, what is this? Like that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
He's got a wall of modular synths. A wall. Yeah. He doesn't live very far from me.
Really?
No, not very far.
No way. You
He's
should like
about maybe 40 minutes away.
you ever thought like I mean it'd be probably hard, but like I don't know, messaging him and saying, hey, I'm a like
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. I met him before. I met him in 2012, I think. Yeah, I met him before a couple times actually.
yo, that's
Been
all.
a while, but yeah. I have another friend who's done songs with him, who produced with him, who's pretty well known here too. He's a good friend of mine, and he's collaborated a lot with him.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
it's
we're
really
not a
cool.
very big. We know in Toronto. I think most people here kind of know each other within the scene, or at least have some connection to each other in some way.
That's a
It's a pretty tight ecosystem here.
That's the good thing. Like that's
Yeah,
kind of why like I mean New York is it's kind of like that, but it's kind of
yeah,
losing that. But like Toronto, I always hear like all these names, like not just musicians, like almost every sort of media. It's always coming out of, like somewhere in Canada, in Toronto or whatever. Like
yeah.
like maybe it's because like you guys have like maybe you guys just have so much of a better like ecosystem to do all that stuff. Like
I I think yes and no. I lived in New York also for 4 years. A long time ago. I used to live there. I started there actually, and then but my family was here, so I came back here. But I think New York has the business. They have the money. They have like the companies, the money, the business. They had all of that. We didn't really have that here. And now I think we always had talent, but we didn't have I guess a business ecosystem for music. I still think we don't really have that because we rely still heavily on selling our stuff overseas because our market's small compared to the US or Europe or the UK. And I think the only good thing about it is we have really high standards. So a lot of the artists here push each other. The standards, I think that's what gives our ecosystem its strength. It's just people are not afraid to be honest when you're not very good. That's what it is.
honestly, is really the
It's a
best.
tough crowd. It's a very tough crowd here.
I mean, is it over? It's not oversaturated or anything out there.
Mm, maybe actually. I mean, I think depends on the genre you're in. Like for synthwave, this is a new thing here. This is a pretty new genre. It's a new thing. I think for this genre, no. For this genre, it's actually not a bad place to be. But for certain genres, like if you're say a rapper and you want to get out here, it's nearly impossible. It's very, very hard because you're going up against really industry giants here,
Yeah,
and it's gonna be very hard unless you ally with them or you. I don't know what you can do to really get it. It's gonna be hard.
that's the thing with rap.
That's saturated.
Oh, it's oversaturated everywhere. Like, my
Yeah.
goodness. how many times, like, it's almost a catchphrase now for someone to come up to someone and say, "Hey, dude, want to check out my SoundCloud?" Like, everyone you
I
know.
know too many guys like that. Because I mix for a lot of these guys. I just don't really like producing it as much as I used to. I'm kind of it's just lost its fun for me. I don't find it fun anymore. But the guy who I learned to mix from is a really well-known rap engineer. He engineered for Drake. He was the guy that taught Drake's engineer, and
Really?
that's the guy I learned from. And he was mainly a rap engineer, or he did reggae rap. He did all of that, and he's a much older guy, but he was really amazingly talented, amazing guy, and I learned a lot of my tricks from him. But what I do now is totally different from what he was teaching me. But from mixing point of view, I think you can kind of apply it to any genre. It doesn't really genres don't really matter when you're mixing. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
anymore.
And
Yeah.
if you're like the person who's doing the background synth, that's kind of the thing people are looking for. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's the vocals, and sometimes the vocals do it, but like, if the beat really hits, it's something about that that kind of draws you into it, like,
Yeah, of course.
initially. And that-
Especially for this genre, because this genre started more of it as an instrumental genre. It didn't have a lot of vocals in the beginning, and I think, and I didn't do any vocals for a long time. My first 2 years, I had no vocals in any of my songs. So I think the first one I had vocals was Remain, and that one got in the documentary. So I thought, oh, maybe I should do more like this. So I
yeah.
think vocals play a part in the genre for sure, but it doesn't control the genre as much as, say, like synth pop, or some other subgenres of the genre.
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, that's the thing with all that. Like, sometimes I guess it wouldn't always control it. And with synth pop, like,
Yeah.
I would, I would think that's kind of, it's, so it depends on like who's playing it too. And like,
Yeah.
because sometimes it is the vocals, but it's like, some people will just use the vocals of the background sample they're using. Some
Yeah.
people
True.
won't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it depends on that front. But
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's funny because I have a lot of random influences because I listened to when I was really young. A lot of my friends where I grew up, the area I grew up, a lot of my friends were listening to metal. They weren't listening to anything but metal. So I grew up listening more to metal than anything else. It's just when I got a little older, I started listening to rap, reggae, dancehall, all of that stuff. And then I still always kind of like tucked my head into metal at some point. I still listen to metal now. So I think one thing that's kind of cool in synthwave is you have these subgenres like dark synth that kind of sounds, well, at least reminds me a lot of metal. It feels like it in so many ways. I mean, it's kind of sacrilege to say because it has no guitar, but whatever, but it just feels like metal. It has that same feeling. And sometimes I just have that mood, and I could still do that in synthwave and still go back to anything else I feel like doing. And I think that's the cool thing about this genre. You can kind of bend. You can do express yourselves in more than one way. I also see, new retro wave. They're putting out some '80s style R&B, which is also something that I really liked. And I was surprised because I didn't know that that would creep into the genre so quickly, but it is now. So
I didn't even hear about that, but like that's something I'm definitely writing on the list because like I'm gonna want to look that up.
yeah, it
Um,
was. I mean, it had its time coming. I knew that was going to come eventually in synthwave, but I didn't think it was going to be so quick. So I got to catch up a little. I got to start thinking about that too. Yeah.
yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, like you got time, you got all this other music going. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
just learn it on the side, do that. Maybe that might work. I mean, then again, I'm just like I'm a college student who's doing a
Yeah.
business major, so that, I
Yeah.
I'm like I don't know, Jack. But I
Ah,
will
you know something. You're a listener. The listener knows everything, man.
Nah, we don't know much. We only know, what is brought to our ears. But
Well, I mean, you know what you like. So,
yeah, I guess so. But like, what you like kind of changes over time. Like if you
yeah,
ask me when I was like younger, I probably only listened to like pop music, whatever was on the radio, whatever was the cool song.
top 40.
Yeah, I hate to admit.
You know what? some people won't admit it, but I mean, I think almost everyone growing up listened to top 40. Well, what choice did you really have? It was bombarding you on the radio.
Yeah, it's like the only other thing. And
Yeah.
there's not like really much of a choice. I mean, there's college radio, but usually the most you ever hear at college radio when at least when I was like really young, it was usually
Mhm.
just like a bunch of like,
Indie
you know,
music.
old yeah, and not really even indie music. It was usually just oldies tunes that they'd play on
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh,
that's kind of what turned me
that's
on.
strange. That's like it's so strange for I mean college kids, and then they're being programmed oldies.
Yeah,
Very strange.
kind of like it's like a turn off. It makes people not want to try like because they'll sometimes sprinkle in a little bit independent music, but like very rarely.
Yeah.
Although what I do suggest, if you this is kind of an odd one, but
Mm.
do check this out. There is this one station I remember listening to in this is kind of what got me into like on underground music. This is how I got into like Boards of Canada and like
Oh, I love those guys. Yeah.
bro,
Yeah.
that artist is awesome.
Yeah.
They're what got me into like the whole IDM genre and synthwave and
Uh
all
huh.
this sort of music. But they essentially had this station. I think it's called like WRIU, and essentially with their radio station at night, they'd have this weird mode where all they would play from 11 o'clock to like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning was like MIDI tunes. You literally just
Wow.
hear someone, yeah, and it wasn't even like good MIDI tunes. It was just like something they found on a keyboard, but it just was the funniest thing in the
That's
world.
funny. Yeah.
I loved it. It just was
Basically
so
keyboard demos.
I
That's
think it was keyboard demos, and then they'd have like some weird
amazing.
robot voice talking in the background, and it wasn't like I don't know some modern like Siri sort of voice. It was like some like what was that Atari 2600 game that like where that voice I am Voltar or something
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I know the game actually. I just don't remember it. I have a 2600 somewhere in here.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I have an original one somewhere in here. I'm really into retro gaming too.
Man, how do you even get your hand? I mean, you find your ways. You Canadians find your ways.
Oh, I got them when I used to live in Taiwan, right? When I was doing
Yeah.
mixing out there. 7 years I lived there. So there was this shop that had only retro gaming consoles. You can get the most random things, and I bought a whole too much stuff I bought, to be honest. I got the most random stuff, but I really like the old Atari systems.
I also
The
heard
games, the games, not so much. Some of them, yeah, but it's just the aesthetic of the design of the system is so cool.
man, that wood grain. And like you could do so much cool stuff with that. Like you have you
Yeah.
seen you saw the video where like that one look mom did the thing with the where he turned it into some sort of synthesizer, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was a Commodore 64, I think.
Oh, it's Commodore 64. I was
Yeah,
thinking
yeah, that it's because the chip inside that is called a SID, and that SID chip is very well known to be used. I think maybe about in the 90s, people were using it in dance music a lot. The bass, it's pretty cool. SID chips, they have synths that are made with those same chips now.
that
SID chips. I don't know who makes them,
I
but
don't know either. I
yeah,
mean,
but they're from Commodore 64s. You can like pull them out of Commodore 64s and make a synth with it. It's
but
pretty cool, actually. It's pretty cool. I'm constantly sorry. I'm kind of ADD, so I'm
no, dude, I am too. I'm like
yeah,
10 times more ADD than
yeah,
basically half of like the people on the staff here. No
yeah,
joke. But there was one more question because like we have to go because the Zoom call is kind of weird. I was
yeah.
gonna ask this. What's the difference between like dungeon synth and like dark synth? Like
Oh,
I know it's kind of out of nowhere. I just was really curious because like I listen to a lot of dungeon synth and like you said dark synth has that sort of metal vibe. So I was wondering if
yeah.
there's like something that kind of separates the two or I don't
I
know.
don't think there's anything that really separates them. I don't think so.
Huh.
I mean, are they really that different
I mean,
to
does
be
like
called a different genre?
does does like dark synth kind of have that thing where they you know how they make the music and it kind of like sounds kind of like something you'd play if you were playing like RuneScape or something like that and it'd be like background music to that.
Yeah, I guess yes and no. I mean, dark synth sounds kind of like some I don't know. I guess it sounds like Blade Runner. That's kind of like, but with metal. It's kind of like that. You'll have these epic like reverbs sometimes, but then it has this very like grungy or distorted kind of sound too. Like Perturbator, I guess you could say he is dark synth, right?
Mhm.
But his stuff kind of reminds you of metal too. So does like Carpenter Brute and those guys. Their stuff they're all considered dark synth, but it does remind you a lot of metal. If you listen to like a lot of late 80s, maybe early, even very early 80s, late 70s metal, sounds a lot like that. I mean, it's processed in a similar way.
Yeah.
It's just not vocal based. It's the vocals don't really matter in their music. But my song Darkness is dark synth. I mean, completely dark synth.
I need to listen to
Dark
that.
synth and synthwave are like very close cousins, though. They're very, very similar.
It's probably
I
the
would say synthwave is like an overarching genre, and dark synth is just like part of it.
huh. I think that would be the
I
case.
think I think that's what it is. I think people are trying to separate the two right now, but really they're very like you're using the same types of drums, the same types of synths. You're just mixing them a little bit different, and the chords are darker in dark synth. They're not as happy sounding. They
Yeah.
don't sound like Miami and palm trees. They sound like obviously angry. They sound more like Halloween, right?
Angry, death, destruction,
Yeah,
insert emo word here, uh,
yeah.
and a hair flip while you're at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
John Carpenter is kind of like a big inspiration for a lot of synthwave,
Mhm.
but John Carpenter's music was mostly for horror movies that he directed, but he also did the score. And if you listen to that, that's dark synth, basically. You know?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would also probably be what kind of separates it from dungeon synth, because dungeon synth would usually have like kind of like that, listening, seeing some video of like some like I don't know, some kingdom or like kind of has that folklorish vibe to it where like
Okay.
maybe like
I mean, yeah, but you could do that in dark synth. I don't know. Like,
so
I don't know. It's kind of hard to separate the two because you could do that in dark synth.
it's
Just maybe the drive is not the same.
maybe. Yeah, the drive, the
The
initial
feel.
drive that kind of gets it to the music.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then again, it all depends on the artist. Maybe they're
Yeah.
the same. It's just like the way they were brought about. Like one came from synthwave and all that, and then the other
Yeah.
one kind of was spawned from like black metal and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
when the both two came together, it's just the different ways that they were formed.
The roots are different, but the end result is really similar.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I think that would probably be it.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was really awesome talking to you today. I really appreciate it. That was really awesome to really.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, have a good day, man.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Cheers.